Welcome to the Dork Forest. Jackie and her pals will never bore us. Shameless confessions
about our obsession
will make us laugh and smile. So let's explore the Dork Forest and dork out for a while.
Hi, Rangers. It's me, Jackie Cation. Welcome to the Dork Forest. It's 2024. Let's do this. Here's the credits, of course. Mike Ruekberg sang that song at the beginning, and he wrote that song, and he sang it with Sarah Cohen, his wife, and he will sing the Mexican hat dance at the end of the program. Also, Patrick Brady still putting this together. Video, audio, all of it. He's amazing. So, and Vilmos doing JackieCationStore.com. Squarespace is doing the regular Jackie Cation page, and I'm thinking of moving the Dork Forest and dorkforest.com away from WordPress because it's driving me nuts. But those are the credits. But if you go to JackieCation.com, you can get Dork Forest merch. You can get my stand-up merch. You can get my stand-up CDs and DVDs, which you'd have to have devices for those. You can also see videos and find out any number of things. I have another podcast called The Jackie and Laurie Show, but the Dork Forest is the flagship. 18th year, we're doing it, you guys. You can go to my Bandcamp or my YouTube for extra content. Please donate, is what I'm saying. It's 2024, and I think we've been in this long enough. Why don't you guys, everybody send me $100? That's what I'd like you to do. You can PayPal me. There's links all over the pages. You can Venmo me at Jackie Cation. You can find me at a stand-up show and hand me a sweaty wad of 20s. Do something. But I love doing the show. I would love to make some money, is what I'd like to do. In other news, I'm sure there's more things that I should talk about, but I can't think of them. But let's listen to who's going to dork out about something, because that's my favorite part. Thanks for listening, you guys. You're all great. Let's get into the show. Hey, it's me, Jackie Cation. I'm in my living room, not in my garage, because my husband has COVID. It's still happening, you guys. He's living in the garage, and it's a dream come true. Welcome to the Dork Forest. With us, new member of the Ranger team here, new arborist, comic from Australia, Sydney, Australia, Bec Charlwood. Welcome to the program, Bec.
Hello, Rangers. Hello, Jackie, all the way from Australia. I'll just get a big old Nora out of the way because I know everyone loves hearing us say Nora at the moment.
What does it mean?
It's just no, but we just chew on all our vowels for some reason. We make a meal out of it.
Well,
I mean, there's not much to do down here, so we got to fill the time with something.
It's a pioneering time. This is amazing. So you're a comic in Sydney, Australia, and your handle, if everybody wants to follow on Instagram, is Charl Beckwood. It'll be in the notes, but it's CharlBecWood. And you have a new comedy special coming out. Will it just be on YouTube or?
Yes, it's on YouTube, available around the world. It's called Bipolar Baby. Mystery as to what that's about. Clearly very secret.
Oh my God, what could it mean? What is it like? Anyway.
I guess you'll have to watch it and find out.
Exactly. Another caricature of life is your dorkdom, which is true crime. There is not a young woman on the face of the planet who is not fascinated by the idea of figuring out how to make sure she knows how to get out of the trunk of a car.
Yeah.
So, what got you into it? No.
I'm about to turn 30 and I'm finally kind of learning who I am. And I realize I'm the same as everyone else. I like the same shit as every other white woman who's about to approach 30. I love Taylor Swift and I love true crime and I love coffee, and that's my personality.
Fact that you've embraced it, because it couldn't be truer. I'm like, somebody said, "Oh, my mom loves that," and I was like, "I am your mom. I am your aunt. I'm your mom. I am this person. Facebook has my when they send an ad at me, they got a pretty good chance of me holding my attention, if not purchasing it. So, yeah, I'd love to tell you that I was even more unique, but in many ways, my uniqueness certainly doesn't stem from what I read and watch, I guess.
Yeah. I believe there was a very wise woman that once said, "I'm every woman," and in that she meant we're all exactly the same.
Oh, I wonder who said that.
I think it was actually my mum.
Oh, fair enough. Oh, good for her. And so you like Taylor Swift and true crime. The true crime thing is what I kind of want to talk to, because
Yes.
true crime is such a, and I've told the story of my shitty Uncle Tom, and there was murder. There was crime.
He
was
murdered
killed.
someone. Oh, he was
Well,
killed.
no. Yes.
Oh,
He
I'm
was
so
killed.
sorry.
No, no one else was. I think his wife was confused briefly, and then was no longer that. But here's the thing. It's the what's the first time you remember? I mean, I know I told you to pick your 5 faves,
Which was hard, which was so hard. I got to a list of 20 and then I had to like cut back, and then I was like, okay, we could go off like different mediums. So this has like been very hard to distill down, because I was raised on true crime.
What?
Yeah, so
because your mother thought it was hilarious, or what?
no, my mum is a true crime author and my dad is a homicide detective.
Oh my goodness. All right.
Yeah.
Then wait a minute. There's a certain amount of credibility in the fact that there's true crime happening. Your mother is a true crime novelist? No.
Yeah, she's written 2
Fiction.
no, true, like proper like factual research true crime.
Okay.
She's written 2 books, and I mean,
like Michelle McNamara, like
yes,
speculative. This is what we know. This is what we might know.
Oh,
so
fully.
that might be this person. Okay.
She was so what happened was she was a journalist for a long time. Then she had kids. When we all went off to school, she just went down to the library to fill her time, because we didn't really, the internet wasn't as big as it is now. And she just stumbled upon this story of a woman who was murdered in the 70s on a golf course by the side of a very busy road. And she just couldn't believe that this hadn't been solved, that this was just she'd been shot point blank in the head, and no one put in the time and effort to figure out what had happened.
Weird.
Yeah. And
where
so
was it?
In Perth, Western Australia.
Right.
And the book is called Dirty Girl, for anyone that wants to read it.
Right. And is her last name Charlwood?
No, her last name is Wills, Juliet Wills.
Okay, there we go.
So if people want to read it, it's like, I have read it a very long time ago, so I'm not fresh on all of the details, because I also read it when I was 18, and I couldn't help but read it.
Is that when you were sort of allowed to read it or encouraged to read it? Like,
as soon as it came out, Mum was like, "Read it. I've worked on this for 15 years. I need you to read it and tell me it's good." It's also dedicated to her kids, which I was like, oh, okay. A bit grim. But all right.
Right. And she didn't make you pay retail, did she? Well, hopefully she got you her own copy.
We got boxes in the. I've got. I think, how many copies do I have here? I think I've got like 5 on the shelf right now, just next to me. Oh, here it is. For anyone visual, there it is. 2 copies right now. Visual reference.
Oh my God, your mother. This is such an ad for your mom. Good
I
for
know.
her for raising the right kid.
Yeah, she's bloody lucky. If you could slide into her DMs and let her know. It's also crazy that the book is called Dirty Girl, and it is about the murder of a brothel owner, but she cannot stand a single stand-up joke of mine about sex or anything remarkably dirty. Just cannot handle it whatsoever.
Oh, really? In like a weird, because the thing is like, yeah, my father has no interest in hearing any sort of weird dick jokes that I've written, but he's like, he gets that I'm an adult. I mean, granted, I am 100 years old, and so, but he, well, maybe, yeah, she should, yeah, eventually, maybe when you hit 30, it'll be a thing where she's like, yes, she's probably had sex.
Yeah,
I don't necessarily need to be there.
She's done something, you know.
Yes,
maybe not,
I'm
though.
sure
She's my mum. Out of everyone in the world, if there's one person to not like my chlamydia jokes, I think it is allowed to be my mum.
It's so true. One of the greatest things about my childhood is that it was almost entirely sex-free. So you gotta love that. It's like some vague attempts by some bad guys. The aforementioned Uncle Tom, and so none of us miss him, is what I'm saying.
Wow. So wait, tell me, I don't know this Uncle Tom story. Sorry for the Rangers if they've heard this story 1,000 times over.
They have heard it, and I was going to let you talk, but I'll just tell you this, and then we'll get back into your dorkdom.
I'm that obsessed that I'm like,
right,
I need
what
more.
What could it be?
Yeah.
Do you remember the Tylenol scare?
Yes.
In Chicago in the early, I think it was in the early 80s.
Super familiar with it. Yeah.
Okay, so someone put cyanide in some Tylenol capsules, and it changed the face of pills around the world. Childproof caps were introduced. Guns kill people millions of times a day. Nobody's got any kind of thing except for a trigger card.
They said, what if we squeeze the top of the bottle, though?
Right. What if you have to shoot with two hands? No, got to make it easier. And there was the Tylenol crisis was in Chicago. I grew up very close to Chicago, north in Wisconsin, a little factory town. And there was a copycat incident where there was cyanide in a can of Coke.
Oh, wow.
And someone died, and that was my Uncle Tom. Now, my Uncle Tom was a bad person, and he was an accountant, and he tried to slip me the tongue when I was 11 or 12.
Yeah,
not good. See ya. Wouldn't want to be. Anyway, but here's the thing about Uncle Tom. He was an accountant, and he was embezzling from everyone. He worked for our state, the state of Wisconsin, and he was embezzling from them. And he got caught because he wasn't good at it. And they told him that if he replaced the money, they wouldn't press charges. So he got his parents to put a second mortgage on their home and give him the money, and he paid him off. His church then caught him embezzling from them. And they said, if you replace the money, we won't press charges. And then he borrowed money on the street. So the streets of Milwaukee, not super dangerous, but they're full of, and that's how my dad found out about it, because my dad knows dirtbags, right? He's always known dirtbags. He's intrigued. He's interested. He wants to be to some of our, except for he doesn't want to be, because that sounds like more work. But my Uncle Tom was also embezzling from my father, and that's how my father found that out as well, by the way. But he found out that he had been embezzling from the church, and he had borrowed money on the street because a guy came up to him at a restaurant and said, "Are you related to Tom Dresser?" And my dad goes, "He is my brother-in-law." And the guy goes, "Well, he borrowed some money on the street, and he's not paid it back, and he's not even paying the interest. He's not paying the VIG, and they're going to hurt him. So you got to talk to him." And so this is the setup for why he needs money. So the Tylenol thing is happening in Chicago. And my Uncle Tom, I guess, gets the idea that he's going to poison my Aunt Shelley.
Oh, God.
For the insurance money. By putting cyanide in a can of Coke, and everyone will think it's the cyanide poisoner. He'll get away with it. He'll make more money. And so here's where you have to kind of know Tom and I wasn't, this happened when I was probably 18, and he was not known. There were two things that happened. First of all, he called my Aunt Shelley and asked her if she wanted to have a romantic picnic in the park. He was not that guy. He would provide, she should bring the food. He'll bring the beverages. And not that romantic. And
oh
she
my
shows
God.
up.
So lazy for his own.
Yeah.
It's
For his
a
own
matter
murder.
of his wife. He's like, I will bring the murder equipment, but I'm not bringing snacks. She can do that.
If you want to eat something, you're going to have to bring sandwiches or something. Anyway,
Oh my God.
The cyanide was in a can of Coke, and he was never a guy that ever drank Coke. He was a guy that drank clear soda. I remember distinctly. He's a 7-Up Sprite kind of guy. So,
Sus immediately. I mean, that's a warning sign
Right.
from a distance.
and so all the police could figure out was that he took a sip of the Coke to see if you could taste the cyanide,
Oh my God. Oh my
and he
God.
died.
This freaking. Okay. I'm.
So,
idiot. What is
he died, and here the weird thing is, my Aunt Shelley was like, thought it was some miscarriage of justice. They never found his killer. They found a spoon in his pocket with cyanide on it. The shortest episode of CSI ever.
Oh my god, that is just. I'm surprised he didn't die of this stress just from all the lies. Just like I have a current tab in my head of I know I owe 3 of my friends $20 and it never leaves my brain. I don't know how you're just going up to people on the street asking for money when you know you owe so much money.
Right. And how did he find the people on the street, right? I don't know.
Oh my god. Well, look, I'm sorry to everyone that's already heard that story, but I loved it. It is rare in true crime where it's like, oh, it's, you know, a bad person kind of gets a little bit what's coming to him. It's very, very rare.
Right. Because it's usually just some innocent person getting murdered, right? And then they never find the killer. Is that the MO? Is that the normal thing, or
the normal thing? I mean, it's always women. It's all like women who like
it's literally, I believe, to be something like 99%. Because does true crime mean that it was like some weird crime?
I mean, true crime is like very broad. So it's like basically any crime. So you can have like, I'm really into like con artists at the moment. I'm taking a bit of a break from murder and assault and stuff. Yeah, you need something a bit lighter, like, you know, people losing their life savings and, you know, fake love scams and whatnot. Just chill, relaxing things.
Oh, right. The fake love scams. I was just reading about that, about how they get a picture of somebody who is a very obscure pop, like a famous person in Romania. Right? Or a famous person in the depths of, you know, northern China. She's very beautiful. She wants to come and visit you. Yeah. She's going to need 2,000 pounds. Send it via wire. No, yes. Oh, what happened was her brother's car broke down. She couldn't make it to the airport. She's going to need another 1,800 pounds.
Oh, anyway. And 5 iPhones for some reason.
For some reason. I don't know. What else? She
doesn't know how to charge them. She uses them once and then she's too beautiful to know.
Right. So what, so pick one from the list. What's a fave?
Oh my God. Well, I mean, Michelle McNamara's I'll Be Gone in the Dark is top of the list because it does kind of remind me of Mum, of a woman who just woke up one day and was like, I'm gonna figure this out. This is crazy that no one knows this. It's pissing me off. I need to know.
Right. So if you're a Michelle McNamara fan, her work was amazing and it ended up leading to the capture of that guy, or at least the identifying of that guy.
Yeah.
30 years later, but yeah.
Yeah, it is like a great example because cold cases, I know that it's like very important that they're reported on and they raise awareness. But when it's solved, there is that real satisfaction of being like, oh, it's justice. Like all these women, like so many women, because this guy, the Golden State Killer, went for like 3, nearly 4 decades, just murdering people, assaulting women, and just evading police for years and years and years.
I even heard of him until Michelle was on the show, and I was like, I live in California. I am a woman who has not been murdered.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much, and also with you. The real question is it's mostly, so if it's mostly murder, and it's mostly like, is it? I've seen TV shows that say true crime, and then, or is it Dateline? Like, what is it? I mean, it's almost always murder, right?
Almost always, yeah. So that's like the main one where it's like there's been a lot of true crime will just focus on one murder or one case or one murderer and his several crimes, or her. Very rarely, though.
Right. This is a man's game.
Yeah, I do get like a little excited when it is a woman. I do have that dark thought of like, good for her, you know?
Tonight. That's a punchline I'm doing.
Yeah.
For
Rarely-
women in murder.
Yeah,
Yes.
rarely are women killing because they had a bad relationship, with their dad.
Right, it just doesn't randomly lead to like some sort of temper tantrum that ends up, a mass murder, or some guy snaps and becomes some sort of weird serial killer, right?
Yeah.
Like it's the psychology of it that some people love.
Mm.
You
I
know
think
what?
it's
Yeah.
it's fascinating to see just like patterns and like how many serial killers had like a knock on the head when they were young and a weird relationship with their mum, and that's the two ingredients that they need to just absolutely
I like
snap.
that. Even if they're killing women, it's still women's faults. It
Yes.
was the weird relationship with his mom that did it.
Yeah.
And you're like, nah, probably not. I mean,
Yeah.
I know a lot of guys who had weird relationships with their mothers who still go to work. They just live their
As
lives.
a daughter, I can testify. Massively weird, complicated relationship with my mum. No desire to go out and take it out on anyone else but my therapist.
Right. I have 4 brothers. Our mother was a mess from all accounts. None of them seem to be serial killers. They all have their issues. I'm not saying they don't, but they're not.
I think what we're trying to say is, hey, if you've got a weird relationship with your mum, don't go and kill people. I know it might not make sense now, but you'll see in the future when you...
I will say, because I am from Wisconsin, and Jeffrey Dahmer was from Wisconsin, or
Yeah.
I don't know if he's still alive. I think he's dead. And then we also had Ed Gein. These are our 2
Oh, wow.
mass murderers or weird, creepy killer. But Jeffrey Dahmer, my brother Scott, and Scott, to this day, still mad about this. Don't blame him. He hasn't responded to my text in over a year. So, good luck.
Make him
if
mad.
you're listening,
Why not?
Scott. Come on, Scott. I was going to send you a Christmas gift. Nothing? Okay. So, but I will say that because Scott was very separated from my family because of there was drama and there was emotional stuff, and he I don't think he had a weird experience with our mother, but my stepmother, when they didn't know who Jeffrey Dahmer was, she was like, "Do you ever think it's Scott?" And I was like, No, I never do think it's Scott. Why do you think it's Scott?
Whoa, I think there's always someone in the family that you suspect. There has to be one. Excuse me. Even if it's like extended family. Like, I feel it in my heart. There is a cult leader in my family somewhere. Everyone is very charismatic. There's a couple of narcissists, and we have a history of schizophrenia. Someone in here is going to start a cult.
If they are not tapping all 3 of those veins to start their own cult, they're dropping the ball. They're leaving money on the table.
They're not
Bec
reaching their
Charlwood
full
is saying.
potential. You could have...
Exactly.
I mean, I'm hoping for a Netflix special, but also someone in the family could get a series on Netflix for another reason. And
Right. You're just like, I hope it's not before me. And, or if they get it, they mention my name.
yes, they make me part of the cult. They have to watch my clips online. They have to comment on my crowd work stuff. So funny, even though it's very banal.
But everyone needs content, you guys.
You gotta.
You should see my crowd work. I'm like,
machine.
what are you doing? Oh, you're on the phone? Don't do that. And then that's the end of my crowd work. Put it away. Hi.
Yeah,
It's almost like you're
destroys rude man. You're like,
exactly.
okay.
It's almost like I was teaching 13-year-olds. Put your phone away. There you go.
Please listen. You've paid money to. You can not
Right.
listen outside of the comedy club.
Right. Feel free to go get yourself an adult beverage elsewhere. Okay.
So we got I'm
Well,
sorry.
you were gonna
I had
pick one.
horrible ADHD. I'm just picking
No
all
problem.
over the place.
It's okay.
I'll be gone in the dark. Huge one for anyone that hasn't seen it. You gotta space it out. Don't try do it in 1 week. You gotta do a couple of episodes. I mean, I watched the series because again, I have ADHD.
Which series is that?
The I'll Be Gone in the Dark. I believe it's on HBO Max.
Oh, okay.
In the US. In Australia,
that
we call
sounds
it
right.
Inge.
They ended up buying some clips of Michelle from this TV show, from this podcast.
Oh yes! Oh my God! Yes, you feature in it. I just
Right. Yeah, she was on 3 episodes, and they were like, "Could we have some of the audio?" And I said, "Do you have any money?" And they're like, sure, here's some money.
Thank God.
And it wasn't a lot of money, but I think I kind of like the idea of the show being the Dork Forest. I just wanted essentially some sort of honorarium.
As
Because
you should.
I didn't even give, I think Michelle McNamara got a t-shirt. She didn't even get the 20. So, yeah, for being on the show, you get $20 and a t-shirt, unless you're international, like Bec Charlwood, then you get one or the other. And
Because
so
$20 for shipping because I'm so far away.
she's really far away, you guys. She's in Sydney. So, yeah. So say no to what was it called? Into the Dark? Or
I'll be gone in the dark.
okay. So it was
Yes.
about the Golden State Killer.
Yes, and then Michelle's story is intertwined with it too. So it is also incredibly heartbreaking. I mean, I'm sure if everyone listens to this podcast, they know that she unfortunately passed before the crime was solved, so it makes it extra tragic. But the crime was solved.
But she was in heaven, I believe, going ha ha. Yeah. Anyway, so I'll make up a heaven for this. I got no problem with that. So the Golden State Killer was a cop, right? Did they?
Yes.
Yeah, that's weird.
And that's how he knew how, like, the neighborhood so well and how, like, the police system worked, and he could move around between states and provinces and not get caught. Like, it was deeply, he
used the system against itself because he was in the system. And then he retired, and then he was caught. So, okay. She explained this to me, but remember, I think it was like 15 years ago that she was on the show. So the Golden State Killer, this was up the coast, right? It wasn't in Los Angeles. It was, where was it?
I think so. Oh, this is the thing. I love listening and then I retain no information, which is not helpful for this podcast.
What's your favorite thing about that she caught him? What's your favorite thing about the catching of it?
The part in the documentary that's absolutely insane is she writes like a letter to an old man and describes how she imagines him being caught. And she's like, you'll be like wheeled out of your house and like it'll be a shock to everyone around you. And it's just so accurate of like how it happened. It feels like it's like she was tapped into another, like she was in the killer's mind for this. Like it feels almost psychic. She knew so much stuff. She'd done so much work. It was like it was like a real bittersweet moment of like, he's fucking done, dude. And I really like when they get done, and I'm like, yes, fucking justice. I hate nothing more when they get away.
Right. So who else has been caught though? I mean, I suppose they're all famous, the ones that got caught, right?
Yeah. Well, another one that happened in Australia, and this is also on my list, is have you heard of the Teacher's Pet podcast? No. Oh my God. So it was a podcast about a high school gym teacher who was married to a woman and then started grooming one of his students. And
Sexy times.
Oh,
with
so
some
cool.
15-year-old.
Yeah, he was 40.
He was 40.
Yeah.
Not okay, guys.
Married with kids. And then one day, his wife just apparently disappeared, up and left, just apparently walked out of the family house, abandoned the kids, according to him. And then the student just moved in. His student he was groomed. And assaulting. Right. Yeah.
Right.
And no one said shit. No one did anything. Everyone was just like, all of her friends were like, she wouldn't just leave, and they tried to talk to police, but this guy was like a local football legend, and so everyone just didn't do anything. Just let it happen. And for years he got away with it, and eventually, because of this podcast, the case got reopened, and now he's sitting in jail. He was convicted for it. And
how did they find out about the case? Do you have any idea? The Teacher's Pet?
It was the journalist. Oh, and I can't remember his name, but he grew up around the area and was like, we all just knew about it, and it was just like common knowledge that like he killed his wife, and everyone kind of knew but never spoke about it.
Oh, wow.
And just no one did anything. Like, it's so crazy how many cases there are of women just going missing, and after the bare minimum is attempted by the police, they just accept it. They just give up. And I think that's a huge part of why I find true crime soothing in a way, is because so many women in my life have experienced horrible things. We all have stories. We all have friends who've just gone through utter nightmares. And then
to us, if absolutely everything hasn't happened to us, it's happened to someone you know.
yes.
And so many horrible things have happened to each and every one of us just for walking around with a vagina.
Yes.
It ain't right. Mm-hmm.
And no one, it's not acknowledged on the scale that it happens. You try tell a man about it and they go, those things don't happen. Maybe
Right,
once in a blue moon.
Once in a while. And you're like,
yeah.
well, the reason I hang out with you is because you don't do those things.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, who does? And you're like, I'm sorry, you were at work. You know the guy who's doing those things. He's the guy you don't want to hang out with either.
Yeah.
But you're like, oh, he's your boss, or, oh, he's probably just kidding, or, oh, he's just being a dick. And you're like, okay, all three of those things, the guy who's just kidding and being a dick, who happens to be your boss, he's not using his powers for good. Know in your heart, he is using his powers for evil.
Yes, they have these same feelings that we do of uneasiness, that something is wrong, but they don't have the real threat against them like we do, of there could be consequences if you don't do something, so they don't do things. And true crime is the affirmation to me, because I feel crazy, because I'm like, why am I constantly terrified for my safety? Why am I checking my locks every night? Why am I walking home with my keys through my fingers? And true crime is the affirmation that it's like, no, you're not crazy. These things happen and they're real, and you're not being insane, in the weirdest way of listening to absolutely horrifying things.
It's sort of a way to justify the fact that you aren't being that you don't feel nuts. That's interesting. I never got into it, I think, because I always knew that I wasn't nuts. I was just
sounds lovely.
Right, because I read romance novels, which is essentially just some sort of happy ending bullshit, right? Which I always wanted to believe in, and it turns out it's working out. Anyway, it's not completely just smooth sailing, but almost entirely. But I waited a long time.
Boring if it was, you know?
Right. And I love being bored. Oh, my life. When my life is boring, it's a fucking joy to me. It's a delight.
Now I'm medicated. That's my absolute favorite, is waking up and knowing exactly everything that's going to happen that day. It's so exciting. Instead of just every morning just getting on a roller coaster and not putting the bar down and just seeing what fucking happens. It's so nice.
That's got to be amazing. Maria Bamford used to tell this joke about, she's like, I would be worried, except for I'm on so many meds, it's actually not physically possible for me to be worried. Best of luck.
I relate so hard to that, because people will be like, being on meds, doesn't it numb you? Don't you lose feeling? I'm like, yeah, I had too many feelings. That was the problem.
Right. And if it's, and as far as I can tell, if it's dosed correctly, you can still have the good feelings, and you can still, it's just not through the roof and dig a hole to the center of the earth. So
I don't have my ear against the wall being like, what's that? Men in the wall? You got secrets about the government for me? No, we don't need that.
Right. Nobody needs that. So it's just sort of a relief to know, because women do have to live more defensively. It's sort of like when I talk to people of color and they're just like, there's things I don't do. There's things I am aware of. It is because of my surroundings, because I am Black or brown or Asian or whatever they are, that they could get attacked because of it. And when you talk to a woman who also happens to be a person of color, or a gay person, or trans, whatever, there's these layers of just awareness that and sane straight white guys know it, and there's knowing it, and then there's relearning it, and then there's relearning. It's sort of, as a white woman, I have to relearn all the time the different levels of things that are good for me that don't happen to other people.
Yeah.
And just be aware, oh, right. And we peel another layer of institutionalized racism. But there's no reason not to be hyper aware as a woman, just because if you aren't, you suffer the consequences. Or if you don't suffer the consequences, you're really fucking lucked out.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
even like if you do suffer the consequences, the worst part is that people then don't have sympathy for your suffering. They'll be like, well, were you walking at night? Well, everyone knew that guy was a problem. Why were you hanging out with him? And it's
Right. You get
never.
no sympathy or you get no justice because there's no. And I think I might have told this story before. There was a woman. Damn, I wish for a beautiful shining moment I knew her name. And one of the younger comics, and she was in her early 30s, and she had been raped. And she did a bit about it. And it was very funny. And it was incredibly hard to listen to.
Mm.
But it had enough punchlines, and they were so powerful, the punchlines. It was just about how the cops didn't believe her, and they were like, sometimes we make regrettable decisions and then we don't want to take responsibility for them. And she
Yuck.
was like, I didn't buy tickets to Nickelback. This is not, it wasn't a band. I didn't, this is, and then her sort of, the way she ended it was sort of reclaiming the clothes from that night, where she was like, the clothes had sat in a corner, and she was like, and she hadn't touched them in 2 weeks until finally she looked over. She was like, that guy, he took my dignity. He took my sense of safety. He did all these things, horrible things to me. He doesn't get those pants. Those pants look good on me. And you were like, oh, I fucking wish I could remember her name because it was such a good, it was cathartic,
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I remember because I was assaulted in my house when I was young, and I remember the most healing thing for me was moving into a house of all women. Well, all women. It was me and one other woman, and she had decorated the entire house in pink. Everything was pink. The rugs, every bit of furniture, all of the cutlery, all of the plates. And I just remember being like, I've never felt so safe in my whole life. It was such a healing experience of being like, men that came to the house felt unwelcome, and that felt so good for me. I was like, good, don't come in here. I don't really want you around.
I'm going to need you to not be here, so I'm going to make this look like a place where you wouldn't come in.
Yeah.
So, oh, that's nice. I like that. There was an amazing scene in the movie Black Widow at the end of the Marvel Black Widow movie, where the bad guy is explaining that the only thing that's expendable in the entire world are girls and women, because there's always going to be more of them, and who cares? And that's why he started the Black Widow program, because he's going to make these little murder girls who are badass and hot, and then they eventually, of course, take back the night. But because that's the movie I want to see. Because in true crime, a lot of times the justice isn't served, right? I mean, there has to be a podcast, there has to be a book.
It has to be a group of other women in front of a microphone or behind a computer that get completely obsessed to get shit.
It was something that happened in 1989, or 2011. Something happened, and you're like, well, who? What did they look? Did they look at any of it? Did they try to figure out who did this? And
it's just so you peel back the layers, and it's immediately infuriating. Because I remember my mum, as a kid, nearly every night, if I came out to get like a glass of water in the kitchen, you could just see like the blue light coming out of the office and her just furiously typing away because she just couldn't. She was not going to stop until it was solved. And it nearly, it nearly got solved. The inquest was, there was an inquest into it and the case was reopened. But unfortunately, it was a bunch of people in the government who are accused of it, allegedly going to put a lot of asterisks around that. So for some reason, it just didn't, there was no conclusion after that.
It turned out inconclusive because she probably hit a ceiling. Yeah. And the fact that the Golden State Killer was a retired cop was probably better than a working cop.
Yeah.
Because they'll protect the people that are still in as opposed to the ones that are no longer in the, they can go, oh, it's an old guy did it.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, he wasn't old in 1979. And you protected him for the last 50 years, so.
Fucking grim. grim stuff.
Right.
But I love it. But I freaking love it.
But you love it, right? What's the next thing you're going to watch? What do you? Because you're working on scams now, right? You're liking.
Yes, I will. A big thing at the moment is cancer scams of particularly women around like the mid 2000s when like Tumblr and vlogs was still like really big and videos weren't a thing on Instagram. You could just post a picture and then write an essay underneath, and everyone in the comments said, "Yay, that's so wonderful, go you!" And no one ever said a mean thing ever, unlike now where it's the most insane shit. But around that time, there's been heaps of cases of a bunch of women who fake cancer to get money and like a following. And I listened to a podcast recently, Unbelievable, the Coco Berthman story. And there was also Scamander is another one. I mean, Australia, we have, I think, one of the original, a woman called Belle Gibson, who faked cancer for a long time and wrote a book about it.
The original. Okay.
No one checked anything. No one checked anything until the book was published and had sold a bunch of copies. Until someone said, "Well, I've had enough. I know this woman personally, and I know that she's fine."
And if she had cancer, it was a skin tag, and it's over. So So essentially, these are people these are mostly women in the early
mostly
2000s?
Women. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a cash grab where they're just like, we can't work. Sort of like a GoFundMe is kind of set up. But in 2000.
Yeah.
How much money did they end up getting? How much?
I mean, everyone's different. I know that Coco Berthman got like, I think it's like getting towards like $500,000 nearly of money that she's raised and borrowed from people. And like, because they'd be like, "Oh, I'm suffering, I'm so sick." And people just give them like cars and let them stay in their houses. And like, I mean, now because the internet is so vicious, it's very hard to fake anything because people are onto you.
Right. Like, there's a lot more double checking, but there's also people who like, if you my mother-in-law should know better, right? Where she's just like, "Well, this seems," and I'm like, "Are you going to say the word real? Because that's not the next word." She's like, "Fake. That's the word I was thinking. This in my phone doesn't look real. It looks fake." And I was like, "That's right. You have to always look at the URL where the email is coming from. And if it has no resemblance to anything that is anything, a lot of numbers, usually a good sign that that's not real."
Yeah, my mom would be like, "Oh, I got this notice that I had an overdue payment for my, car insurance." I'm like, "You don't have a car right now. Why would you pay that?"
Yeah.
But think.
Right. I keep getting, the one I'm getting right now, I can't remember if it's email or might even be text, where it's just like, "You have not paid this invoice from PayPal. This invoice from PayPal has not been paid. And if you don't pay," and I was like, who is invoicing me on PayPal?
Yeah.
And first of all, I use PayPal to pay for things sometimes. So my first thought was, I've used things to pay for thing on PayPal. Maybe I didn't. And then I'm like, no, the word invoice has been thrown out there. Nobody's invoicing me on PayPal.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a corporation. If anyone wants to invoice me, good luck. Because now I'm not responding to any of that bullshit. But
the big one that I get is in Sydney, you have to pay for all of the roads that you drive on, essentially. So you have to pay tolls, and there's different companies for each toll. So nearly every day I get a text message from a different number being like, "You haven't paid this toll." And I have to go through and research if I've actually paid it or not, because it's such a complex system and such an easy scam to pull off. Because once you go and you put your details in.
All the tolls are privately owned?
Yeah.
That's a good idea. I say
So
sarcastically.
good. Everything is so privatized, and the government is owning less and less of everything in Australia.
Until you hit a wall, and then it all becomes. Then one of my favorite things about my father is that he's a giant capitalist and also doesn't care about money. So he's willing to not have, like, he can hold two separate. He would balk at the idea that I would say that he's a socialist, but he's like, he loves capitalism and sales and all that stuff so much, but he's also like, what do you care? Just give them some money. They need it. And I'm like, wow, you could hold two ideas in your brain at the same time, Dad. It's kind of amazing.
The duality of man is just
Good for you.
astounding.
Good for you, I say. It's yeah. Anyway, so there's that. And so there's the scam ones. I had
Scam
heard about the
ones.
love scams.
Yes, yeah. They're I mean, they're kind of sad because they often just target older, like, divorced women specifically, and like, who are just lonely and just really want someone, and then all of a
Oh,
sudden,
right. And they got all this money.
yeah, Frederick from Germany, who's a young, hot, blonde thing, is hitting them up, being like, I think you're the bee's knees. I'm going to do everything your ex-husband didn't. I just need $10,000.
Yeah. And it's just like, I sometimes get, because the aging process is happening right in front of your eyes. But the weird thing is like on Instagram, I'll get you're so beautiful. Can we talk about it? And I'm like, who are you talking to? I'm a comic. I'm not used to this sort of, if you said I was funny, yes, I would talk to you.
I delete those messages on site. For any fans that message me that, I do not give a
just
crap.
leave and block. Leave and block. I'm not even going to be polite. I think maybe 20, 25 years ago, I was politely like, well, this isn't actually something you should say. And now I'm
that's
like,
not what I'm going for.
no, I'm just gotta just delete it. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Meet someone in real life. My apologies. Or put a radius on your Tinder profile. And,
there's so many beautiful models out there. That's what they're after. Go into their DMs, tell them they're beautiful. Please just tell me I'm
they've
funny.
Hired a team to like lice comb through those things, so they won't even have to see that. And the people that will probably just say, how much do you like me? Do you like me enough to send me $100? Do that. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. I talked to you. It was like a cameo. So.
Oh, yeah. I mean, what other kind of true crime are there? We got cons, we got murders.
Right.
Catfishing is another big one.
Now, that's some sort of lying, right? That's just, that's a different kind of lying, right? What is it a love lie or is it a
So it can cross over with cons. Sometimes people just do it to fuck with people. Like, it's a hobby of theirs is to embarrass people into being in love with them. One podcast that's like my all-time favorites, but again, super heavy, go in with caution, Sweet Bobby.
It's called Sweet Bobby and everyone should go in with caution.
Yeah, I know, real misleading title there. About a woman who was catfished online for years, and it was somehow not about money at all, and is just like
it was just some dude who didn't like her, or
I won't spoil the reveal on this one because it is quite. But
that's right. So if people are into it, Sweet Bobby, huge reveal.
Yes,
no spoilers.
Yeah. If you want to see catfishing and it's most fucked up, head on down there. And it also is great for, I mean, maybe just send it to your mums as well, just so they know what to look out for when it comes to, online scams.
Okay. I think of catfishing as those guys who are like sort of button pushing, but I think that the catfishing part of it is because actual catfishing, because catfish, I thought it was where you stuck your hand into a hole and tried to catch a fish with your hand. That's what it's a southern United States fishing thing. And those fish, by the way, have teeth and people have lost fingers.
Oh my God.
It's a real fishing thing. I don't know that it's called catfishing, but I thought it was, where you'd stick your hand into a hole and then you could catch a fish with your hand and pull it out. And then you were a man or something. I don't know what it was, but whatever it was. Catfishing, the scam is some sort of flattery to get a response.
Yeah, right? To kind of like, everyone has different motives. It can be money, but a lot it's shame. It's to like try and make someone fall in love with a fake profile, someone who's not real, and then break their heart at the end and be like, it was just me, a 16-year-old with too much knowledge of AI, just ruining your life.
Just ruining your life because I'm bored. And yeah, that's a special kind of douchebag. Holy smokes.
Yeah. I think that's also a huge part of the fascination is like true crime is just douchebags galore and people who are not scared to be absolute dicks and seem to have no fear of consequences. Like,
they seem to be horrible people without any sort of result ideas, like what the consequences are at all.
yeah, whereas like I can't tell a lie without breaking into a sweat and like I can't keep track of, if I do tell a lie, I live in anxiety of being like trying to keep track of it and remember where it is. There's people just busting them out 24 hours a day. They're adding like multiple stories to many.
Yeah, when I stopped lying, my life became so much simpler because I didn't have to remember all the lies. And so I could understand from a TV movie of the week kind of angle why you would want to catfish somebody for money, right? Where eventually you're like, either you've tricked them into giving you money for some sort of cancer, or you lost a leg, or blackmail, where I'm going to tell everyone that you thought this was real. Give me $1,000 and I won't. I could see that, sort of. Maybe, I don't know. But what about those schemes? What about those scams where people take over your computer and then they blackmail you? Have you gotten into that at all?
Yes, yeah. There's a great podcast, Reply All does a long form of them going to flying to India where these hackers are and interviewing them and seeing why they do what they do. And that is one of my all-time favorite. God, I haven't written down the episode name, but you can find it if you just type in Reply All call center scam. It'll come up, and
I think I had heard about that one. That sounds fascinating and weird.
Yeah,
but they literally they tracked they just put a trace on the. They found the place where it was being generated, and
yeah, so they get the call, like the scammers on the line, and then they see how they do the scam, and then because they're big tech nerds, they know how to track them and figure out where it's coming from, and then so they trace like the IP address, and then they go over and they try and find the office, and then they do like a stakeout and wait for these people, and then they sit down and talk with them, and they're like, why are you doing this? Like, why are you doing what you do? And you just see like the disconnect that technology's been able to give them of being like, oh, these aren't real like people to me, and like a lot of it is being like, oh, these are rich white people from the West. Like, we don't feel bad about
this. I'm not going to feel bad about this. They've got an extra $100,000. They have an extra $10,000. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's actually and that's been made heroic, like sort of a Robin Hood kind of. They think of themselves as, stealing from the rich and giving to the poor, but then they're the poor and then they're not poor anymore.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's I always think, for me, what I've decided not long ago was that if people are button pushers and are trying to push my buttons, I will not let them push my buttons until I have under control how I'm going to respond to them. And then I will tell them that essentially to go to hell. And then when they get mad at me, I'll be like, oh, I thought that was the button you wanted to push. Why don't you go fuck yourself button? Because that's what you're doing. You're trying to get a light. You're trying to light me up. Congratulations. But what it means is we don't have to hang out anymore because you're a piece of shit. And so, which is not possible. I can't wait
to have that level of wisdom and control.
Oh my God. Right. Because you have to wait. You have to wait. And it's the pause that is the hardest, because you mostly want to knee-jerk react and go, seriously.
or just like explode emotionally and then lose all footing, and then they're like, "You're being crazy," and I'm like, "That's my deepest fear."
Right. And when women get all sad, they or get angry or frustrated, we tend to cry, and then it takes all of our power away, because they're like, well, don't cry, and you're like, I'm crying because I'm frustrated and angry at you. I'm gonna fucking cry because you would punch a wall, and in the end I will not have broken my hand, so why don't you get the fuck away from me while I cry. And
this is a way better coping mechanism. This is also, I think, a lot why we kill ourselves way less. We just let it out in little doses and just feel all the feelings.
I screamed in my car today. I screamed and screamed and screamed in my car because my passport was 3 days expired. And I was like, what if I needed to run? And so then I went and I decided to spend hundreds of dollars to do expedited. And so
oh my God, are you going anywhere overseas?
Nope. And but I went and I went to the place that was going to do it, right? And I forgot to bring, for some reason, I brought everything. I brought all the things that I needed. And who knew that the government of the United States would like, with my old passport, a photo, and all these things, the application, they would like a hard check, like an old-timey fucking check that says
What?
U.S. State Department, $209.53 or some fucking thing. And I was like, I have to go find my checkbook? And they're like, I said, do you do money orders here? Because they said they would take that. And they were like, no, we don't do money orders.
What?
And I was like, you might want to do money orders. So then I don't have to delay this. But so I got in my
Good
car.
luck to any Gen Z travelers. Far out. They're just not going to leave the country.
It was that or stand in line for like 2.5 hours at the passport office. And I was like, no, I'm going to spend some money. I'm going to spend an extra $100 and just have this done over the internet at a FedEx office, and they're going to mail it for me. And so they had the application and everything, and they had like idiot pictures of everything that I needed to staple and paperclip to things. And I was psyched until I got to and paperclip the check here. And I was like, paperclip the what? A check?
Oh my God, what is it, the 90s? That's insane. That's the thing that drives me insane is bureaucratic bullshit. When you're like, I'm trying to give you money. You've put these rules in place, and I'm trying to follow them. Yeah. Please let me just give you my money for reprinting a piece of paper that I already paid for ages ago.
Right.
Right.
And I'm going to assume you have all of my face, DNA, fingerprints. I've been arrested. Things have happened. You have all of the information.
Everything you've Googled ever. Like, they've got a list of that.
You guys, you know what I'm watching on Amazon Prime. You know what I fly Delta. They take my picture every time. Anyway, so, okay.
Gotta love a good
what would you
scream in the
recommend?
Oh my God, I think okay. This is
that you have not recommended. Yeah.
That I've not recommended is an Australian documentary. It's available on Netflix in the US though, called Last Stop Larrimah. You probably haven't heard of it, but it's a 3-part documentary. I love a 3-part because you can knock it out in a weekend. It's not a long commitment. You know, you're not stressed for a very long time. You get the reveal at the end. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really good for, like, particularly because I imagine it's a lot of Americans listening. If you've ever wondered what an Australian redneck is, we have our bogans, and they're kind of like your MAGA people. Like, they're like, you know, they're a little like they got some hardcore ideas and a lot of critical thinking.
That's the nicest way of. They're treasonous idiots is the word she's looking for.
Yeah. But this is like full blown, like The Hills Have Eyes, like it's about a town of I think 13 people in the middle of Australia where there's absolutely butt nothing for days.
There's that big rock. They got that big rock in Alice Springs.
They got the big rock. It's kind of near the big rock. It's not too far from the big rock. and one person in the town goes missing, and it's apparently very difficult in a town of 13 people to find out how someone went missing.
13.
13 people.
13 people, one's gone, and nobody knows where they went.
Nobody knows.
What's
and
that
they
one
all
called?
live Last Stop Larimar.
Okay.
And it's by two American actors and producers, and I can't remember their name. So for anyone that's like has seen Australian TV and been turned off, I understand. It's not our gift. We have a lot of talents, okay? Making our own TV shows is not one of them.
Well, it's a learned skill. It was Miss Fisher's Murder Mysteries. I've seen them all because I am your aunt. And and then I just watched Deadlock.
Oh! I just finished rewatching that last night with my boyfriend. Did
No
you
reason
like
not
it?
to. My mother-in-law is gay, and she and I accidentally just started watching it because it was, and the first 2 episodes we just our mouths hanging open, just we could not. We're like, what the fuck is this? This town is like if it were shot in northern Florida, which is the most southern state in the United States. And just if it had been invaded by lesbians, so many lesbians that
So
you could
many.
tell that there were different kinds of lesbians, that they were just like people. And then it was, and then the mystery in that show was excellent. I thought the arc of the actual mystery was really well done. Deadlock.
Yeah, if you like True Detective, you will like Deadlock. I think they're very similar shows. Sorry, just to backtrack, Last Stop Larimar, another reason why I loved it is because my dad was a cop in the Northern Territory, which is the province where it happens.
Yep.
Do you know the Dingo Ate My Baby case? So my dad was the detective on the Dingo's Got My Baby. My dad was the detective on that. And
oh my God.
So, yeah. Which people are like, whoa. So is he like a celebrity? No, famously botched case.
Famously did not help his career.
Yeah. Like a very low point for him as well. For anyone wondering, he's like every time we're not allowed to talk about it because he gets very upset, and rightly so.
Yeah.
Because he always says, he's like, I've done so much great detective work in my time. I've brought justice to so many horrible people, and that was the lowest point in my career, and it's all anyone talks about.
Right. And I'm sure he knows why everyone is fascinated by it, but everyone makes mistakes. Steve Ranazizi said that he was in one of the Twin Towers on 9/11. He wasn't. He was in Midtown. For 20 years, he ate out on that. Talk about
that
scams.
guy.
Yeah, remember that guy? Hero of 9/11?
Yes.
Yeah. I make fun of him every chance I get. It wasn't a crime what he did. It was just really stupid. And it makes me laugh that for 20 years, it was a lie that he told so many times, he started to believe it. And you're like, dude, you weren't there. You weren't there.
Well, Dad, wrongly convicting a woman of murder or being part of it. That is a crime.
Yes, right. And something regrettable that he does not want to think about too often, I bet.
No. But I asked him about Larimar. I was like, did you go there? He's like, oh, I hated it. They were fucking weird people. And that was like 30 years ago. And this doco was recently.
Oh, and I like, they were weird people. All 12 of them.
Yes.
All right, everybody. It's been an hour. I've been talking with Bec Charlwood. Here's the thing about Bec Charlwood. She has a new special out that's called Bipolar Baby. That's right. What could it be about? Anyway, but it's at Charl Beckwood. CHRLBECWOOD. Bec Charlwood is her name. She does stand-up comedy in Sydney, and you should go see her do that stand-up comedy, and you should watch her special and leave nice comments or no comments.
And not about my face or body. Just say it's funny.
Just say, I liked that. And if you liked a particular joke, you could reference the words that were in that joke.
Oh,
that'd be perfect.
My favorite.
Thank you so much for doing the show.
Oh my God, thank you so much for having me.
Yay! And Rangers, you know the rules out there. Take care of each other.
Hi, Adal. How was the show?
It was fascinating because it was with one of the younger comics out of Australia,
Hmm.
and she likes true crime, as all 29-year-old women do, because it somehow validates the fact that they're afraid all the time, even
Well,
though
you know,
most true crime
that's
is
fair.
unsolved. And I realized that I don't like true crime because I never needed to be. I was like, no, I'm not nuts. Of course I'm afraid. And they, for some reason, have been told that they shouldn't be afraid.
Well, I think this might be an oversimplification of what's going on.
Well, I have, again, a degree in political science, not psychiatry. But it seems to me that she said that the reason she really liked it was because of that.
Right.
It validated because she feels nuts to be afraid all the time.
Right.
And to watch true crime makes her feel like she isn't nuts and she's not alone.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
Yeah.
good.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I never watched true crime because I've never felt nuts or alone in this particular instance.
I think I don't watch a lot of true crime or read a lot of true crime. Although I did watch there's that, there's a television show about it's sort of one of those 30-minute documentaries of the week about newsworthy cases.
Yeah.
And it was about a guy who started all the fires up in Glendale.
Okay.
So I remember when they arrested him a handful of years ago, but I didn't realize like how it had all come to pass. So it was sort of neat to like connect this.
Was there more to it than arson?
Yeah, well, I mean, he was a fire investigator.
Oh, it was that plot.
Yeah,
I've seen that on different fire shows where
and it
the
turns out
fireman falls in love with fire.
Yeah, he had said it. Well, he was wanting to. He was a wannabe fire investigator.
Oh, he wasn't an actual fire investigator.
He finally did get there. He finally got hired by the Glendale Fire Department as a fire investigator, but not after having been turned down by a bunch of other places, and after already starting a bunch of fires that people were in the Central Valley that people were trying to figure out who did it.
Oh, okay.
There had been a series of fires, and then here's the crazy thing: before he was caught, there was several tens. There would be tens of small wildfires up in the hills above Glendale every year.
Okay,
and they thought that they were all natural.
Yeah.
After they caught him, that dropped down to less than 10.
Oh, so
they think that he had started a lot of fires.
Yeah.
That wasn't anything about what your episode was about, though.
Well, a little bit, because it's a little bit about just crazy people doing crazy. Like there were the murder true crime ones that she was talking about, where women were the victims. Mm-hmm. And then she talked about cons where women were the perpetrators.
Oh.
There was a lot of things in the early 2000s where women pretended to have cancer. And then you would have to send them money because they had cancer.
Oh.
And
women with cancer, that trope.
That weird trope. And then she referenced at least like 4 or 5 different podcasts that she had listened to beginning to end. And I was like, you listen to a lot of podcasts. Right. So and then
remember most podcasts are not open-ended like yours is.
As far as ongoing 18 years later?
Yeah, exactly. So, when they say I've listened to 20 podcasts, those podcasts might be 6 or 8 episodes long each.
I thought that was a new genre of podcasting. Maybe someone will come on.
I don't think so.
And then she was also talking catfishing, something about catfishing. And I tried to figure out, I think it was somebody in your family telling me about a sport where you stuck your hand in a hole.
Yes, catfishing.
Is that...
That's different.
Also
it's a different kind of catfishing, although kind of the same.
Well, tell the people, because I don't know if I described it right. Tell the people what catfishing is.
Okay, so in these shallow ponds and riverbanks in the south, the catfish will basically dig burrows into the sides of the banks, and so they'll be and so you can go along the side of the bank and stick your hand down in, kind of under,
Yeah.
and reach into these holes, sight unseen, which
And
is
grab a fish.
to grab a fish, right? And the catfish will then glom onto your hand, and you pull the catfish out.
Glom with their mouths.
With their mouths, yes.
And their mouths have teeth sometimes, right?
Kind of. I mean, they're fishy teeth, so not a lot of
They're
danger.
not jaws.
They're not jaws.
But
However, the other problem of this is, and the real danger of this is, the other thing that has similar burrows in the sides of the riverbanks are in the south are snapping turtles, which can take your arm off.
That's where the fingers were being lost.
That's right.
Snapping turtles. Okay.
Right. They can take a big enough one will take an arm off of you.
Okay. So, but that's catfishing where
Southern style. No
Southern
technology
style.
involved.
Right. Catfishing is more kind of like flattering someone to get a response and then going psych, right?
More specifically, pretending to be somebody you're not in order to develop a romantic relationship with them.
So it's flattery, though.
Yeah,
usually.
it's flattery and it's romance and it's all the things that you might have in a long distance romantic relationship.
It's a very specific kind of con, the catfishing. It's romantic usually.
That's right.
So we talked about that as well. She had some quality. Some quality TV and film, and she had just finished watching Deadlock, which is about murder and is about crazy people. So it was a crazy, crazy episode. But Bec Charlwood, it's Charl Beckwood is her handle, and she was like, "I complicated it, I know," because her last name is Charlwood and her first name is Bec, and she's a comic from Sydney, so Bec Charlwood. But her handle on Instagram is Charl Beckwood, and she has a new comedy special coming out called Bipolar Baby.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So it was a great episode. So I hope you enjoyed it. And you know the rules out there again. Take care of each other.
My hat, my hat, my hat. They're dancing around my hat. My hat, my hat, my hat. Well, what do you think of that? If it looks like a Mexican hat dance and it sounds like a Mexican hat dance, it's most likely a Mexican hat dance. So take off your hat and let's dance.
Yay! Oh my God. Why don't we just call that as the end of the show?